Immigrants to America. Who can remember them as they passed through his town 80 years ago.
These people would be poor things, they'd be standing like a flock of sheep. Most pitiable to see them. Children in the middle, the mother sitting down, huddled, with her shawl, and the look on her face. I saw one day one little boy had a paper, and he'd had something white and he was eating it. And I said to one of the emigrant fellows, "What's that he's eating?" It was fat. Fat, he was eating fat. And bits of the bread was in long chunks and they were breaking it off. They were one step removed from animals, if you understand what I mean. They're primitive, they didn't seem to be like we were today. What a knife and fork would be to them, I don't know. But all they used was their hands. Their boots were made of string and rope. They were an impoverished lot. Yet, they went out to the United States of America and they made America what it is today.
American citizens or residents go to your right, please, through door number 1. Visitors or immigrants go straight ahead through door number 2. American citizens or residents go to the right through door number 1. Visitors or immigrants go straight ahead through door number 2.
America is a nation of immigrants. 2 more arrive at Kennedy Airport. Antonina Calapa and her son Frank from Sicily.
Does he have a job waiting for him here or no? See, he does.
You and your mother, huh?
Aliens today, citizens in 5 years' time. The process is almost automatic. Registration card number A34436-840. 47 million immigrants have come to the United States since records began.
These are your new alien registration cards. Okay, these are his new alien registration cards. He's to carry them with him at all times, okay? And don't lose them. Okay. Okay. Welcome to the United States. Okay.
The world's richest country. Neighbors proud to fly the flag. The Calapas are driven to their relatives' home. Neat lawns, 2 cars in the family driveway. A century and a half ago, America was a different place. There were only 11 million Americans then, living mostly in the East. Farmers, Protestant, nearly all English-speaking. No settlers here, just trappers and hunters. Chicago in 1820. San Francisco. Milwaukee, Boston, the Athens of America, New York, the metropolis. The continent was empty. Indian territory. Virgin soil. Pioneers went west, beyond the Great Plains, to win fresh lands. As they moved on, new men settled the ground they left behind. Men from Europe, immigrants.
My grandfather died before I was born, but he was a giant. He's an awful big man. He was 6 feet and 10 inches tall. He was 23 years of age when he left England. But in 1830, he come from the city of Headcorn, Kent County, England. Yeah. It was in, I think it was the 9th of June, somewhere near there. Yes. And he come to America. Well, after he got to New York, he started west. And others started west with him, but some dropped out, and he come to Chicago. He walked then clear to Chicago. Afoot, packed on his back in that cane, that was all. Stopped from place to place where I could lay down to sleep, you know. Digged his way over. Gave me something to eat along. Gladly give it to them because they wanted immigrants. In his diary it tells us, worked for self today, and worked for so-and-so, you know. Yes, different ones, yes. With his oxen. And my grandfather worked for 25 cents, shilling, he called it. Everything was shillings. Breaking ground, well, they always call that, they do yet. Where there's timber, they grub the trees out. Then they break that ground. That's the first time it's been broke. See, they turn it over, breaking the dirt. That's why they call it breaking. So he cleared up ground and commenced making farms out of it. That is right in the edge of Bigfoot Prairie, where they started because they thought prairie was no good to raise anything. It had to be trees on it. They grubbed the trees out to grow good crops. Why, I can remember when I was a boy, my land, the woods everywhere. There's plenty of Indians here then. Oh yeah, the wigwams. An Indian never forgets. He's like an elephant, he never forgets. Once he tells you anything, it'll be just so. He could tell you too where to catch fish. You could too. He'd tell you like, he said, never catch fish where the water's still. Where it's wrinkly, he says. Fish like that, he says. Of course, there used to be lots of hunting then, you know. Lots of deer here, you know. Lots of game. My grandfather, well, he thought it was a great thing, and it was. The country is new, and he knew it'd grow.
William Featherston wrote letters home, and 1,000 new Americans like him. Careful words, contentment, enthusiasm, invitations. Come.
If any man intends to find a better country, he must leave the earth. For there's not a better country.
This is a good place and a good country. They are fools that would not venture and come to this plentiful country, where no man or woman ever hungered.
Woods are full of turtle doves and 8 or 9 kinds of woodpeckers, robin redbreast the size of your pigeon. Wild deer still range in the prairies, and many forests which have never felt the
I
axe.
write from a land of liberty, flowing with milk and honey. Land'll grow anything, and here they use no manure. I measured Indian corn last September, more than 15 feet high.
The letters reached the old world, a world of peasants and kings, imperial dynasties, dukes and counts, wars and famines and poverty. No way ahead, no way out. All the land there was already taken. Too many mouths to feed, not enough land to feed them with. 5 sons meant 5 families living from a single plot. A 250,000 Germans left in a single year. 1.25 million Poles left in a single generation.
Father got married. Mother came from a poor family too, and the grandfather, I guess, gave him an 1.5 acres of land, and that which wasn't enough to feed the 3 of us. So that father decided to go to America.
Norway, 3/4 of its land not fit to farm. 750,000 Norwegians left.
His grandfather was a tenant farmer in a little valley. That whole valley was owned by 3 people, 3 farms. The rest of the people in the valley were tenants of these farmers, and there was, there was no chance for getting ahead.
Italy, the poorest peasants of all. The government itself urged them to go. 4.5 million left.
The masses who came from Italy and southeastern Europe came in search of bread. Those who came from the south of Italy were really in dire circumstances, poverty-stricken, living on a sunburnt land.
Ireland, the country which lost more of its people than any other in Europe.
The desire of nearly every young man in my day in Ireland was to leave Ireland as fast as they could, because there wasn't any incentive there. None at all. And under those conditions, free America, everybody talking about free America, you know.
America advertised in Europe. It wanted muscle. Why linger in the grim old world? Come help build the new. Steamers replaced sailing ships. The journey became quicker and cheaper. A dozen shipping lines competed for the immigrant trade. So many went that Europe took fright.
The migration to America is by far a worse epidemic than the recent one of cholera. It has become a pestilence spread in ignorant and credulous minds by corrupt agents who paint this new world as a country of happiness and bliss. The authorities must keep close track of this propaganda and take measures to restrict this emigration.
Mail from America was censored. Zealous Russian officials tried to keep good news out. Personal letters sent to family and friends were intercepted.
Sell everything you possess and come to America, because here you will live 10 times better than in the old country.
Now I will express my longing. If you had wings, you could fly to me at once, my dear wife.
We send you 2 sailing tickets. One for our sister and another for our uncle, your brother.
Dear wife, Of the two papers which you find in this letter, the larger is a sailing ticket, and the smaller is the ticket for the railway journey from New York to me at Baiting Hollow. I am waiting for you, your husband, Jan Cybulski.
Money, tickets, loving greetings. They never arrived. But censors could not stop the flood. Immigrants came from North and Central Europe to the coast. Hamburg, Bremen, Rotterdam, and in England, Hull and Liverpool prospered on the immigrant trade. Between 1870 and 1880, 2.75 million immigrants made the journey. In the next 10 years, Southern Europeans, Italians and Slavs began to join the stream to the New World. By 1890, 5.25 million more had crossed the Atlantic, nearly twice as many in only one decade. Waiting to go. You couldn't just leave. Have you paid all your taxes? Have you settled your debts? Have you done your military service? Are you a criminal, a political offender? Are you deserting your family? Is there anything you ought to do for king or emperor that you haven't done? Take a last look at your old world.
They took their possessions, which was a feather bed and pillows and maybe a change of clothes, not too much. There wasn't too much of anything in Europe. They traveled by wagon. He took us to a train because that was quite some journey. From Grandma's house, it was too far to go. No train close to the village.
2 days, even more, on the railway. Further than you'd ever been in your life. Strange sights, strange smells, incomprehensible languages. Then you arrived at the station. Hamburg, Bremen, somewhere where there was a port.
The street was full of people of the different nations, you see. Polish, Russian, Romania, Baltish. The traffic in the Bahnhof Street was stopped. So many people there were. I must say, these people, they made the impression to me as when they came from another world.
Then the steamship companies took over.
They put us into a place that looked like a barrack for soldiers. There were lots of people that have spent months there because they didn't pass through the health business.
America wanted only healthy immigrants. If you weren't let in, the shipping companies had to bring you back at their expense. So they checked your health before they let you get on board.
The hair was something terrible. Every one of us went through. They looked for something in the hair. We sat up nights and looked every hair over. We washed our heads in kerosene and then they put you through the most terrible health examination. I was young and very innocent. They had to get completely undressed and go before the doctor with anything that looked like a bunch of naked cattle. And we went through there. I didn't want to do it. I refused to take my robe off. So they told me, either I do or I stay behind. So I took off my robe, and the doctor examined me. I was very lucky. I was healthy. My hair passed through. My eyes passed through. and we were fine.
All our immigrants were like cattle. They put us in rooms where men separate, natural, women separate. They disinfected our clothes. They shaved our heads. As a matter of fact, the buttons of my uniform, this is the uniform I came to America with, the buttons were leather buttons, and they disintegrated as a result of the disinfectant.
First class for luxury, second for comfort, third class for economy, and steerage for the immigrant. But the band played for everyone.
You leave your roots, you leave your friends, you leave your home, you leave your family, your brothers and sisters and parents, and all of a sudden you are, although the orchestra was playing as we embarked on the boat, I was crying. I didn't know what's ahead for me.
Some immigrants went from continental ports to England, to Hull, and then by train to Liverpool. British steamship lines claimed it was the best route. Liverpool, Britain's biggest seaport. The slave trade had made it rich. It still shipped human cargoes. 2.5 million Irish fleeing poverty, and now the masses from the continent of Europe.
On number 1 and 2 platform, at about 11 o'clock in the morning, a train had come in there from Hull and Grimsby and those East Coast places where all the continental ships from the Baltic Sea used to come into. And on them there'd be hundreds and hundreds of immigrants, poor, impoverished people that were going to America to make a new life for themselves. You'd see these people coming out of these trains, emptying out onto the platform. And all they had was quilts or old sheets or anything, with all their worldly goods wrapped up in them. Their children, not frightened, but bewildered. They were in another world. They didn't know where they were. Clinging to them with the skirts or to their father's coat. They were really a sight that would touch you to see. You was looking at something that was lost, if you understand what I mean. They would come out of one world into another and they didn't know where they were. The charabancs they used to go was 2 horse affairs, big open charabancs. They'd pile them in, throw their luggage in, and off they'd go. And the fellows on Lime Street station would say, another bloody lot gone, good riddance, and they'd be waiting for the next train to come in. They were as bad as anybody. They robbed the people of their eye tooth, those porters at Liverpool would.
Sometimes the immigrants went in liners, sometimes in tramp steamers, but always in steerage.
Steerage was in the prow of the ship, the forward, the peak, as we used to call it. It was mostly underwater. When that prow would sink into the waters, you know, you just held your breath. And then when she'd come up, rise up, you know, 90 feet or 100 feet or more, it was some choppy thing, you know, up and down and up and down. And of course this movement made them all seasick. And the poor things then, of course, they couldn't hold their heads up, and they were dizzy, their balance was disturbed, they couldn't walk, and so it was an awful sloppy when that happened. And we always prayed for good weather when we had immigrants aboard, because they were not nice about taking care of spewing. It was all over the place, and you could just smell it. It was horrible.
The journey seemed designed to test our worthiness of the Promised Land. It was the crossing of the Atlantic in the steerage, 18 days to cross the Atlantic. It was just horrible. We were down in the hold of the ship, one above the other, so that the vomit of the one on top would fall on me. And our eating utensils were all of tin, tied in a bundle and tied to the post. And the weather was terrible, and everybody was sick. I still have in my nostrils the stench of that ship.
I didn't know what was going on. I was seasick all the way. And my mother had an idea that if they would see me that sick, they would throw me overboard. I don't know where she got that idea. So she hid me.
We were down on the bottom of the boat there, and it was like rows and rows of beds, just for women, of course. And one climbed over the other when they had to get into bed or get out. It was a terrible situation. And the sickness, the vomit all over the place, it was horrible.
It was awful downstairs here. So many people that was downstairs, they sat together and didn't want to move because the ship was working very hard in the awful sea. That it was. And many times we had to be very, very correct in taking the people on deck to get fresh air, because that was very, very, very necessary.
Every morning, in order to disinfect the joint, they chase everybody up on deck. And it didn't make any difference whether you could walk or not. If you couldn't, you'd crawl or slide or any way at all. You had to get up on deck until they told you you could go back.
They had little changes, of clothing. They wore the same thing all the time. And I think that probably led to what happened to so many of them. They were full of lice. They'd come into this one big room where we had this delousing process. And every person that was found with head lice was treated with some kind of a fluid, a liquid of some kind, and then we would wrap the head in a white towel of some kind, and the next morning this towel would be running with these bugs.
That was the most terrible ocean voyage I've ever witnessed in my life.
For 17 days we didn't see more than sky and water. And we thought we were born there.
We lived anxiously from day to day, looking for land, that this wretched journey would be over. So someone would go lean over the side and peer in the distance and see perhaps a cloud and then holler, land, land, terra, terra. And we would all rush there, and it was just an illusion. So back we went. And so when we finally reached the harbor, and I don't remember that anybody even noticed the Statue of Liberty. I'm not sure that anybody knew there was such a statue there. All we knew is that we were in port.
In port, but not yet in America.